For millennia, a vibrant and powerful African civilization flourished along the banks of the Nile River in the region known as Nubia. This was not a peripheral kingdom, but a mother culture, a cradle of pharaonic civilization itself, with a legacy of kings, queens, and innovations that shaped the ancient world.
Until the lions have their own historians, the tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
In the mid-20th century, a monumental engineering project, the Aswan High Dam, gave birth to one of the world's largest man-made lakes, Lake Nasser. While celebrated as a symbol of modern progress for Egypt, the creation of this vast reservoir came at a devastating cost. The deliberate and permanent submersion of a huge swath of the Nubian homeland, drowning not just villages and communities, but a priceless archaeological heritage that holds the key to understanding the deep roots of African history. This is the story of what was lost, a story of submerged palaces, sunken cathedrals, and a cultural memory fighting to stay above water. To comprehend the scale of the tragedy that unfolded with the creation of Lake Nasser, one must first understand the profound historical significance of Nubia. Long before the construction of the dams, the region known in antiquity as Ta Seti, or the land of the archers, was a cradle of African civilization, encompassing present-day Sudan, southern Egypt, and parts of Ethiopia. Ta Seti was not merely a neighbor to ancient Egypt, but it was its progenitor. Archaeological evidence from Kustul on the modern Sudanese-Egyptian border points to the emergence of the world's first known king and pharaoh from this region. For 3 millennia, Ta Seti, or Nubia, was the mother of Ta Meri, ancient Egypt, or Kemet, a cultural wellspring from which Egyptian civilization drew its strength and identity. This long and storied history culminated in the 25th dynasty when powerful Sudanese pharaohs ruled over the whole of Egypt itself, a testament to Nubia's enduring influence throughout the centuries. 3 major civilizations rose and fell in Nubia during the pharaonic era, and it's important that we go through these. There was Kerma, Napata, and the mighty Barua, or also known as Meru. These kingdoms were ruled by a succession of powerful kings known as Koi and queens known as Kandake, including legendary names like Amanirenas, who famously resisted Roman expansion into Greater Africa. The landscape was dotted with pyramids. In fact, there are more pyramids in Sudan today than in Egypt, a silent testament to the architectural and cultural prowess of these Nubian civilizations. The influence of this region extended far beyond its borders, with many African peoples across the continent tracing their origins back to the Nile Valley and the vibrant cultures that once thrived there. Even after the decline of the pharaonic era, Nubia continued to be a center of innovation and cultural development. In the 6th century CE, the region embraced Christianity, giving rise to 3 powerful Christian kingdoms: Nuba, also known as Nubadia, Makuria, and Alodia. Along with the Ethiopian Empire, these Nubian kingdoms represented one of the 2 major black Christian civilizations in the ancient world. Despite the adoption of the new faith, Traditional African customs endured in Nubia. The succession to the throne, for instance, followed a matriarchal line, with the son of the king's elder sister inheriting the crown, a distinctly African tradition that underscores the region's unique cultural identity. The 20th century brought with it a new kind of power, one that would irrevocably alter the landscape of Nubia. The construction of 2 dams at Aswan in southern Egypt set in motion a chain of events that would lead to the displacement of over 100,000 Nubian people and the submersion of their ancestral homeland. The first, the Aswan Low Dam, was built by the British in the early 1900s and later heightened, causing the initial displacement of Nubian communities. But it was the second, the Aswan High Dam, a monumental project championed by Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser in the 1960s, that would deliver the final blow. Promoted as a symbol of modern independent Egypt, the High Dam was designed to control the Nile's annual floods, provide hydroelectric power, and expand agricultural land. However, these national ambitions came at a terrible price for the Nubian people and indeed for the rest of Africa. The 1959 Nile Waters Agreement between Egypt and the Sudan sealed the fate, approving the dam's construction and paving the way for the creation of Lake Nasser, a massive reservoir that will stretch for over 550 kilometers, inundating a vast expanse of Nubian territory in both countries. The Egyptian government, in a chilling display of colonial-era logic, cast the Nubians as willing victims and living relics of a bygone era who were being moved for their own good to a new modern future. The reality was a forced and traumatic exodus. Between 1963 and 1965, entire communities of Nubians were uprooted and relocated to new settlements, often hundreds of kilometers away from their ancestral homes. Egyptian Nubians were also moved to a new settlement called New Nubia at Kom Ombo, while Sudanese Nubians were relocated to Kashem El Gebar, the rich, fertile lands that had sustained Nubian life for millennia were swallowed by the rising waters of the Nile, replaced by a vast, sterile lake. The once vibrant villages, with their unique architecture and deep cultural roots, disappeared forever, leaving behind a legacy of loss and a profound sense of displacement that continues to haunt not only the Nubian people, but the rest of Africa. The rising waters of Lake Nasser did not just swallow homes and villages, they consumed a priceless archaeological record, a treasure trove of ancient and medieval history that had lain preserved in the dry desert climates for centuries. The scale of the loss is staggering, a testament to the immense cultural wealth of the Nubian civilization. Among the most significant sites to disappear beneath the waves were the mighty fortress of Buhen and the significant Cathedral of Faras. For those of you who have watched our previous videos on architectural constructions in Africa, you might have heard of Buhen. The fortress of Buhen, located on the west bank of the Nile, was a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian military architecture. Built during the Middle Kingdom, it was a sprawling complex of massive walls, deep moats, and fortified bastions, designed to project Egyptian power and control the lucrative trade routes into Nubia. In 1964, this architectural marvel, a testament to the engineering genius of ancient Africa, was completely submerged, its secrets now hidden beneath the waters of Lake Nasser. Further south, in what was once the medieval Christian kingdom of Nubia, in Nubia lay the Cathedral of Faras. This was not just a church, but it was a vibrant center of Christian faith and culture, a testament to the rich spiritual heritage of Nubia. Founded in the 8th century CE, the cathedral was a magnificent structure adorned with over 120 stunning wall paintings depicting biblical scenes, saints, and Nubian bishops. These murals, a unique fusion of Byzantine and African artistic styles, represented one of the most important discoveries of Christian art in the 20th century. In 1964, as the waters of Lake Nasser rose, the Cathedral of Faras, with its priceless collection of religious art, was completely submerged, a silent witness to the drowning of ancient civilization. In 1964, as the waters of Lake Nasser rose, the Cathedral of Faras, with its priceless collection of religious art, was completely submerged. In 1960, in response to an appeal from both Egypt and Sudan, UNESCO launched the international campaign to save the monuments of Nubia, an unprecedented effort to rescue the region's endangered archaeological treasures. The campaign, which lasted for 2 decades, was a monumental undertaking involving archaeologists, engineers, and experts from around the world. It was a race against time, a desperate attempt to salvage what could be saved from the impending flood. The most famous achievement of the Nubian Preservation Campaign was the relocation of the great temples of Abu Simbel. In a remarkable feat of engineering, the 2 massive rock-cut temples were painstakingly dismantled, moved to a higher ground, and reassembled piece by piece, preserving them for future generations. The temple complex of Philae was also rescued in a similar manner, along with 22 other monuments. The campaign also involved the excavation and recording of hundreds of archaeological sites and the recovery of thousands of artifacts, many of which now reside in museums in Khartoum, Warsaw, and around the world. However, the UNESCO campaign, for all of its successes, was a bittersweet victory. While it saved a handful of most prominent monuments, it could not save the vast majority of Nubia's archaeological heritage. The focus on the grand pharaonic era temples, while understandable, came at the expense of the less spectacular but equally important sites that told the story of everyday Nubian life and indeed the rest of Africa. The villages, the cemeteries, the rock art, and the countless other traces of a vibrant, living culture were all lost to the flood. The campaign, in essence, preserved a curated version of Nubian history, one that prioritized the monumental and the ancient over the lived experience of the Nubian people themselves. The creation of Lake Nasser was a profound and irreversible act of cultural destruction. It was not just the loss of ancient monuments, but the erasure of a living landscape, a homeland that had been continuously inhabited for millennia by Black Africans. The submersion of Nubia represents a tragic chapter in the history of modern development, a stark reminder of the human cost of so-called progress. For the Nubian people, the loss of their ancestral lands has been a source of deep and enduring trauma, a wound that is yet to heal. Their displacement has not only severed their connection to the past, but also disrupted their social fabric, their cultural practices, and indeed their unique way of life.
We begin our journey in the Great Lakes region of Africa. The Anu, migrants from the Great Lakes region, were the first settlers of the Nile Valley. The first written scripts were found in Abydos and dated to about 3,400 BCE. These predate the cuneiform script of Sumer by at least 2 centuries. The Scorpion King was a ruler of Upper Kemet in the pre-dynastic period. The first dynasty covers the first series of kings to rule over a unified Kemet, the Old Kingdom. It is also known as the Age of the Pyramids encompasses the reigns of the great pyramid builders, such as Khufu and Khafra. The Kerma culture was based in the southern part of Nubia, or Upper Nubia, in parts of present-day northern and central Sudan.